today we're going to be talking about lesson 28, which is measuring time and elapsed time. Now, with measuring time, we're going to be using some of the terms that you're really already familiar with, like minutes, hours, days, weeks, those sort of things. And then with elapsed time, that is figuring out the time distance between two events. So with elapsed time, you look at the start and ending time, and then you can figure out the time in between the two. Now, when it's measuring time, we're pretty familiar with these. You know that 60 seconds is going to give you 1 minute. And if you say 60 minutes, you know that's equal to 1 hour. And 1 hour, 24 of those hours are going to give you a day. And when you go from day to month, you guys are familiar with this, it's 30 days or sometimes 31 will give you 1 month. Moving from months to years, you know there's 12 months in a year. When we get to years, we actually are going to have two different kinds. We have what's called a common year of 365 days. And then every 4 years, we have what's called a leap year, which actually has 1 day more, 366 days. That's to coordinate with the rotation of the sun, the earth around the sun. So that is where we will have a split with the years are either going to be common years or they're going to be leap years. Now, also you need to be familiar with the terms decade, century, and millennium. For a decade is a grouping of 10 years. A century is a grouping of 100 years. And a millennium is a grouping of 1,000 years. So if you were to say 2 centuries ago, well, that would equal 200 years because each century is going to be 100 years. So those are your measuring times. So long as you're familiar with those right here and these down here, you will do just fine with that. Now, it's really not that difficult so long as you are remembering a few things. One, you need to pay attention to the fact of whether it is AM or PM. Obviously, AM is before 12 o'clock. PM is after 12 o'clock. So elapsed time is the amount of time between the starting and the finishing. For example, if I start my homework at 4 o'clock p.m., you always need to have a label, and I finish my homework at 5:15 p.m., well, we would know to get from 4 to 5 is 1 hour, and to get from 5 to 5:15 is 15 minutes. So I know my time total is 1 hour and 15 minutes is my elapsed time. If you can think about it in the terms of the direction and 4 to 5 and then 5 to 5:15, that will make it easier for you to figure out elapsed time. Now, example 4 in your book gives us another one to look at. So if you want to take a look at example 4, it says Raven and her friends attended a movie that was 2 hours and 5 minutes long. Now, we are told with this the amount of the lapsed time. So we're told what's in between. And we're also told that it ends at 9:20 p.m. The movie was 2 hours and 5 minutes long. It ended at 9:20 p.m. So we need to back up and say our 9:20 has to go 2 hours and 5 minutes earlier. So we would go from 9:20, back an hour would be 8:20, back another hour would be 7:20. Now that gives me 1 hour and 2 hours, but I still have 5 minutes that need to be moved back. So from 7 to 7:20 to 7:15 gives me that 5 minutes. So the movie would have had to start at 7:15 p.m. Again, remembering that you must have your labels there. Now, that should kind of help you figuring it out, especially if you remember it's all in the moving bag. Lesson practice. What I will do is we'll read it, and then you do the answer, and I'll do the answer. So you might need to pause in between if you are going to take a little longer than I give you time for. Just hit the pause button. Letter A, 4 centuries is how many years? Well, I know that 4 centuries, and I know 1 century equals 100 years. So 4 centuries would be, you should have come up with 400 years. Letter B. According to the calendar in example 2, what are the dates of the 3rd Thursday in June 2014? Well, if we look back at the calendar, the first Thursday you can see is the date of the 5th. You can see the Thursday below that and the Thursday below that. Go ahead and write your answer. The correct answer would be June 19th, 2014. Now, if you just wrote the 19th, that would be incorrect because you didn't have the full date. A leap year has how many days? Go ahead and write your answer. And you should have written 366, and again, don't forget your label, days. Letter D. What is the name of 1/10 of a century? Remember, a century is 100 years. So if I divide 100, dividing it into 10 pieces because they're asking me about 1/10, I end up with 10. What is 10 years called? Your answer would be a decade is 1/10 of a century. Now the next, write the time that is 2 minutes after 8 o'clock in the evening. Go ahead and write your answer. 2 minutes after 8 o'clock in the evening. Well, it's 8 o'clock, and it's going to be 2 minutes after 8 o'clock in the evening. Now, for letter F, write the time that is 8:45 in the morning. Now, do not get confused with this. You will not start with the 9 because it is not 9 o'clock yet. It is 8:45. Go ahead and write your answers. Don't forget your AM and PM. 8:45 in the morning would be 8:45 a.m. Letter G. What is the time that is 20 minutes after noon? Well, the check here is not if you can write 12:20. It's do you know what your label is going to be? Go ahead and write it. You should have 12:20 p.m. Now that goes hand in hand with H. What is 30 minutes after midnight? Go ahead and write that. You would have 12:30 because it is midnight. You would have the a.m. Write the time that is 9:15 in the morning. Now notice with this, F was 9:15. They're now asking us 9:15. Go ahead and write your answer. And you would have 9:15. Again, don't forget your a.m. J. If it is morning, what time is shown on the clock? Now notice where the small hand is going to be your hours. So it's 11. And then your minutes are the big hand. So when you write that, you should have 25. Now it says if it is morning, we automatically know it's going to have that a.m. Almost done. What time would be shown by the clock 2 hours later? Now, if we look at here, 2 hours later would move us from 11 to 12, 11:25 to 12:25 is 1 hour later. 12:25 to 1:25 is 2 hours later. So our answer would be 1:25. Now it was in the morning. So what label would you put? It should be now afternoon. Now it also asks us what's 2 hours earlier. Well, then we would go from the 11:25. Backwards an hour would be 10:25. Backwards another hour would be 9:25. So our second answer would be 9:25. Don't forget your label. a.m. And finally, a movie started at 3:15 and ended at 5. How long was the movie? I'm going to change colors here so it sticks out a little bit better. It started at 3:15 p.m. and went until 5 p.m. So 3:15 to 4:15. Well, it doesn't go all the way to 5:15 though, so I can't go forward an hour. But from 4:15 to 5, this is 1 hour, and this is 45 minutes. So your answer for L would be 1 hour and 45 minutes. Okay, take just a moment. Make any notes or any stars that you need to for questions tomorrow, and I'll see you to do the assignment.